clap.
Cool.
I'll go for it. Right back.
I've been thinking back about places I've visited and I've got this one estate in mind. It's the first time I realised that hood mentality is just a state of mind. Nobody there really cares about the daily grind as long as they're smoking on their daily grind. Dandelions grow in the gardens where there could have been roses. You could have heard the birds if it weren't for the mopeds. Could have had progress if it weren't for the posers, but that's the difference between dandelions and roses. It's a bit like people. You see, for a rose to grow, it needs care and love, but dandelions grow up around hoes and thugs. They grow up through the pavements in our inner cities. When I was younger, I used to look down and think they were pretty, but as I got older, I was taught to look down on them with pity. You see, in class, we're taught that dandelions are weeds, so they don't do so well in the school. Their aesthetic appearance is the only reason we consider them fools, but they hear this too, so they stop following the rules. You always hear them say, if they don't respect me, why should I respect them? Just because I look different doesn't mean I'm not as good as any of these rose-tinted man them. I still got value and I still got flowers, so why don't you allow this? Because not looking at the bigger picture's just plain cowardice. If you smoothed out the payments and funded urban development, I'd look just like the roses and you feel far less benevolent. The roses look down on the dandelions. They laugh. They call them silly. They ain't got to worry about this shit if they're hanging out with the lilies. But you see, it's not the roses' fault either. They too grow up with disparity, and let's not pretend just because they're young they don't understand classism as an everyday reality. They grow up through the suburbs and the gardens, and most of them are just younger clippings of their mothers and fathers. They grow up right next to them in the picket fence paradise, now people looking down, admiring them most of their life. Now, back on the estate. The government gives the dandelions drugs and pesticides, believing that's where societal problems resides. And the dandelions rarely open their eyes, they just sniff up the nutrients from the pills and the lines. But dandelions have to grow up quickly. And it's not because they're driven. They're just dealing with the harsh situation which they've been given. And many of them have to grow up alone, and it's really hard to see from where their seeds are sown, which is kind of the same as kids growing up in a broken home. Though they're the same as the roses, just looking for their light, just born closer to the road. Though if they're born too close to the picket fences, the more likely to get picked. Too close to the road, the more likely to get nicked. Doesn't matter where they are, though, they're all more likely to get kicked, so most of them look pretty battered and bruised by age 26. But you don't have to be a professional botanist to realise that the problem with our pseudo-populace is getting so bad it's a shock that nobody's stopping this. Maybe even our politicians get off on this, looking down at the people with the wrong end of the binoculars. The issue is, the beauty of the flower is how we determine worth, but we never stop to think about the quality of the earth.